everybody. That's right. Welcome to another live stream on Wednesday here at Pop Squatch Growers. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who is currently here. Thank you for showing up, for all of those of you who will come here very soon. Let's go back to the beginning and we will say hi to everyone. For those of you watching us through Facebook, remember that it doesn't display your name on the live stream chat. So if you want me to know who you are, just type, hey, it's such and such, and then I'll know. All right, what's happening, Daniel and Drathy? Good to see you. What's up, Jansen Dennis? Mad Hatter 717. Good to see you, buddy. Felicia Casper, Skimpy Limpy, good to see you. Our sexiest grandma in the house, Goddess Ganja Nana, your mama. Welcome to the show. Miss Kay's Garden, good to see you, my friend. All right, am I missing anyone? Marco Ramirez, Facebook user, who says, oh shit to you. Hello, hello. What's happening, Alex Squatch? It has been a while. Good to see you, my friend. Rocking and rolling. Good to see you, my friend. I Spot Cannabis, good to see you. And again, Facebook users, if you want me to know who you are, just type your name or something that I might be able to identify you as, and then we'll go from there. What's happening, Jansen? Hey, good to see you, buddy. All right, Crazy Train, good to see you. Uncle Dunk, good to see you. David Phil, all right, baby, just down over the block. He lives 2 blocks down that way. Good to see you, buddy. All right. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, at least we can stream to the Facebook platforms, right? I mean, and the fact that I was able to figure it out, like, I mean, that in and of itself is fucked. Uncle Potsquatch figured something out. What the fuck? I'm confused. All right, but good to see you. All right, what's happening, Kenneth? Good to see you, buddy. All right. Who else am I missing? Chris Ball. Hello, back to Newfoundland. Good to see you, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Saul Stanley. Yes, we transplanted about a week ago. They've had a week of coming to terms with themselves, and we will be shooting the first part of the video tonight and shooting the last part tomorrow, and it'll come out tomorrow afternoon on not only the plants as an update, it'll be the day we go into flip. That's right. I'm going to train and flip basically within 24 hours. And then we're also going to show you everything we're doing there in terms of training. It'll be a fun video. All right. What's up, Eugene Dolan? Good to see you, buddy. That one stuff. All right. MySpace. Oh my God, the days of MySpace. Hey, what's up, Helga? Good to see you. That's coming in from the Facebook there. Good to see you, Helga. All right. Anthony Cordero, good to see you. If I missed anybody, no. Vic Victor, there you go. There's a new one there. All right, what's happening, everybody? So one, yes, this is true. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Feel free to share. Jason Lee, good to see you, buddy. This is what helps us on our current ongoing war against the YouTube algorithms. They have recently actually accepted us back into the monetization program. Not really sure what happened there, but we have limited monetization anyway. That's where the memberships are back, donations are available, all those types of stuff. But as always, none of the content will ever be required for you to pay for you to actually come and see it. What's up, Sean Infill? Good to see you. Ozzy Lone Wolf, good to see you. All right. If I missed anyone, all right, Mud Swat. New light, new tint. I like it. And you're trying to germinate some seeds. I hope they're going good, man. I hope they go good. Today is going to be a very special episode. He will be a few minutes late. He warned me about an hour ago, so I have to fill the stage until he shows up. It was funny because he's like, hey, man, I'm actually in another town doing our laundry. I was like, man, the show is about you today. Who goes and does their laundry the day they got to make their public debut ever in the history of the internet? But Gazzers does. So we're going to film it in. But today on the show, whenever he shows up, we're going to be having the Gazzers himself, the man from New Zealand, the Kiwi Squatch, the one, the only, the man whose genetics were the last genetics we ran on the channel before my life went topsy-turvy, is going to be coming in on the show today. Here's hoping he is fast and shows up. I mean, we're only 4 minutes and 40 seconds in, so it'll be okay. But it's going to be fun. We're going to delve into, well, you know, he's got to be careful. He's still got ongoing court battles that he's having within his home country because they are living, you know, about 20 years behind most of the rest of the world in terms of the archaic persecution of cannabis producers, cannabis lovers, and cannabis people. I will also say, too, I'm really glad to see you, Goddess Ganchanani, your mama. I feel like I haven't seen you in one of these live streams in quite some time. It's good to see you, sister. I'm glad you're back, man. Yeah, Jason Lee, they're available already. They've been for sale for at least 2 months. So the initial offerings from our company are currently available on the website. On the website, you've got, I believe, 3 options, and then there's a mixer pack that has another little fun thing added in there. I don't know if I put it up there that you can buy a straight pack of the updated F2 version of the Gazzers Madness. But if you want to try some of those as well, those are available in the mixer pack. But that's all on the store, my friend Jason. I will type the stores for you just to check it out. One thing here. What's up, DLK OG? Good to see you, buddy. Just typing a website. It's not clickable. I wonder if I do it old school like this and go like that, and then do this and do that. Oops. Bear with me, everybody. Well, still not bloody clickable. And I'm sorry. I did my darndest, everybody. At least it's not reading as clickable on my end. Maybe it's reading as clickable on your end. But regardless, that's the store. PotSquatchSales.com, my friends. PotSquatchSales.com. We got all the hats, t-shirts, grinders, papers, beard oil, CBD, seeds, all that crap. It's all on there. It's all ready to go. Basically, right now, oh yeah, Miss K's like mixer pack. I believe Miss K actually was, in fact, the first person to buy the mixer pack when it came out. Oh, you can click it. All right, Uncle Dunk is like, no, it does work, Pot Squatch. It just doesn't work for you to realize it works. Perfect. That's what I'm going for. I don't mind if I can click it. I actually have access to the back end of that website. But if you can click it, that's kind of the point, isn't it? But anyway, right now we're just killing time and we're waiting for the Gaz himself to show up. I know he's a little nervous too. So everybody, be extra friendly because, Gazzers, we've been trying to get Gazzers on the show for like at least 3 or 4 years now. It's been a long time coming, and with his ongoing legal battles, he wasn't really in a place to come on the show. We'll talk a bit more about that, or what he can talk about that in terms of things when he does come on the show. That is still an ongoing thing, but he has actually recently moved. He is now living. My computer made a beep. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. We're just gonna get him in here right away, everybody. Without further ado, okay, this is the most anticipated, at least for me, guest for the show of all time. A dear friend, a dear fellow Squatch, a man from New Zealand, kicking ass, taking names, and keeping it real, who I've been through a bunch of journeys with. We've had multiple guys try to dupe us into joining with us on making a company. Dale Rook, the dipshit. What was the other guy's name? I can't even remember his name, but Gazzers will remember. You remember the one who said he was dying of cancer and yet he's still somehow not dead from stage 4 cancer, and it was all a lie. Anyway, without further ado, Gazzer Squatch. Yo, motherfucker, what's up?
Hey, brother. Hey, everyone, man.
Welcome to the show, bro. It's been a hot minute. We've been trying to get this to happen. But it's windy where you are.
Hard out, man.
Well, everyone,
Hard out.
he's living in the middle of nowhere there. But,
oh, yes.
Could you put something next to your phone, like a piece of wood that might block some of the wind that's hitting your microphone?
No, I don't think we can. It's just where we are.
That's okay, too. It comes and goes. We'll work with it, man. It doesn't even matter, bro. Yeah, it's not me. I'm inside, everybody. Gazzer's at his cabin now. So I was trying to tell them, are you in the North Island now then, Gaz? Is that where you've ended up?
Yes, I'm in the most eastern part of New Zealand.
Oh, shit. All right.
What we call Aotearoa.
I don't think I'll try to say that properly. I'll let you say it one more time. So, man, oh, dude, it is so good to finally have you on the show, Gaz. Like, I mean, for years I've been harassing this man, everybody. I'm like, come on, Gaz, just come on the fucking show. Who gives the shit? Oh, even Return of the Mac is on. He's even tuning in for Gazzer's debut on the internet. Oh, that's wonderful. Good to see you, Mac. I'm glad you're not dead, buddy. It's been a long time. So, Gaz, before we get into some of the more fun conversations, fuck off, Mother Nature. Oh, wait, listen. Let's, because I don't want to say too much without getting, because I know you have ongoing still legal stuff that you're still working on there.
Yep.
What can you share with us about the recent stuff you and Mel have been dealing with? Tell us a bit about that. It's been like a year and a half,
Well, it's just basically it's illegal in our country, so there's no word for it. We're what you call green fairies. I don't like the term. I'd prefer a compassionate provider, but green fairies is the term over here. So we help people out with issues and gave them affordable cannabis or medicine to help them with certain issues, as well as breeding at the same time.
Well,
unfortunately, we got hit by the lovely authorities, and our local crop. What's that?
I was just like, that means the pigs, everybody at home.
So with the local cop in our local community, he stood down from the raid because he didn't want any part of it. He knew we were good people, and just before we moved to the North Island, he actually came and said he regrets standing down, and maybe he should have done it because we wouldn't be facing the shit that we're facing now.
Well, because they were pretty shady on that raid, right? Because you had a couple of plants in flower, but the plants that were in the court documents were babies. Everyone, they were like little seedlings. And then, and then of course the wonderful police and powers that be. Do you think they write anything down on the charge papers, or what I would call under Canadian Crown law, the discovery, which is their evidence against you? And I remember the first time when you got the discovery and you were reading some of the information, you're like, I didn't have that many plants. I didn't, this is all fabricated bullshit.
Yes, and unfortunately, it's a hard one to beat.
Yeah. When Johnny Law comes after you, I mean, it's a thing, bro.
So that's a hard one to beat and whatnot. But we're still fighting it. We're in a better place now.
Maybe tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about the next chapter, because I remember the day you called me to tell me you were making a move. It was a beautiful, it was the first time I saw you smile a real smile in a long time.
Well, I'm now associated with this here E3C, which is a charitable thing, and basically we're going to be fighting to change these laws here so we can have recreational cannabis, so we can give proper medicine to people that are in need.
Yeah.
To also fight a drug addiction.
Well, totally, because that's a big problem everywhere. I mean, I know, to my understanding anyway, and yes, most of my information comes from you, but methamphetamine is a big one in terms of New Zealand, in terms of your guys' drug crisis that's going on right now.
Yes. So we've got a bad method problem, and it's affected especially small communities in Aotearoa. Smaller indigenous communities have been affected more than other communities, and just the racial thing that goes around it all. I'm part Māori, part majority white, but we've got my Māori part in me. But what people get off charges here, and Māori people will go to jail.
Yeah, no, and that's I know you were sharing too, just sort of the persecution, and I mean, as sad as it is, the same thing happens in Canada. The disproportionate cultural representation of those in jail, especially over smaller charges too, is very by and large Indigenous in Canada as well. We have a very similar issue. We're fighting a similar systemic racism that's sort of in the system itself, right? Well, and your wife is Samoan, Mel Samoan.
Yes.
Right, so that doesn't help anything either. So they get to take out a Maori and a Samoan all at the same time.
Well, interesting enough, they get to take a Pākehā, a Maori, a Samoan, and a Maori.
There we go. But dude, I'm so stoked, and so let's we can come back. Let's circle back to where you're at now and what you're doing, right? But let's talk about. I mean, part of how we first became friends was, we've both always had a love of these things, right? We've always been intrigued by botany, cultivation, playing around with the weed titties and etc. To be fair, this man, though, everybody, he had all sorts of plants on his property down in the South Island. You know, he was growing food, he was growing corn, he had fruit trees, and all this crazy shit all over the place. And he loved to, like, the man basically is guilty of loving plants. Gazzers, you evil plant lover, you tree hugger.
Yes. Yes.
But like, you know, what was it like growing up in New Zealand as a cannabis enthusiast? Like, what was the culture like then? I mean, I've often, even now, experienced kind of the weed culture there. It's like almost like 20 years behind us in terms of kind of popular things or like stuff like that. You know what I mean? But like, maybe tell us a bit about what it was like back in the day in New Zealand for weed.
Well, back in the day, I mean, if back in the day you'd have harvest time, so you'd have flower, okay, and that and then when after the flower comes around, you'd have what you'd call RSO, which was traditionally hash oil back in the day.
Yep.
And then coming to a certain about this time of year, you'd have what we call tips. People would top their plants and they'd smoke it. I don't know if you'd get stoned off it. We think we did, but that was the culture of that time. I mean, the hash oil was made out of leaf, and not sugar leaf. We're talking shade leaf.
That's how I remember it when I was a young kid. Like the first couple times I made hash oil, like I was taking bags of junk. Like, you know, half the time it was fucking wet, you know, and you pulled it out of a dumpster outside of a grow that because you knew it was a big grow. So you'd go like at night and grab their leftovers. You go through, you try to dry it out and make whatever the fuck you could. The oil tasted like shit. It technically worked, but it wasn't nice though. I remember the first time I made a batch of like hash oil out of good shit and just the flavor profiles that were there. And I was like, oh shit, this is what this is supposed to be like.
I mean, we've advanced a lot more since then. I mean, then the butane came in, I'd say around the late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of people started getting into the butane, and I mean, they weren't making it as far as shatter at that stage.
Yeah,
but that was considered the goldies, what we call goldies, oil.
Because like that, yeah, we did the same thing. Like I would have been like a kid at this time, like maybe like 14 or 13, 14. I remember when the first, and so yeah, we would blast it. We wouldn't bake it off or purge it. We just let it sit forever. Then you mix it up, push it out, let it do like kneading bread dough. And then eventually it would kind of turn into this butter-like shit. And then that was kind of our first dabs. I mean, that was kind of the first dabs that really came about vis-a-vis sort of the Decline boys here in Van City, right? And that was before we had shatter, before these types of things. It was the first incarnation of a butane style blast before we knew any better about using petrol-based solvents to fucking.
Well, I mean, I can remember at one stage, I made a heap of hash oil out of sugar trim.
Yeah.
And then I decided to I'm going to chop up all this flour, and I combined it together to make this what I call monkweed.
Okay.
And you made it into these blocks of flour mixed with this oil, and I mean it got you high. It got you high as hell, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever did something quite similar, but like I did do similar things. Like, you know, when you make RSO, and then if you filter it, right, like there was always that kind of like beigeish floating bar of stuff that was kind of like I always figured it was the leftover physical organic matter of the trichromes that we've just broken down with the solvents, right? So, and then I would do though is I would pour it in such a way where I could extract that part of it out, and I'd pour that into a pan, and then I would keep my oil aside, take them back down, but then reintroduce them back together after that, and it would make this sort of. It kind of reminded me of like a pliable old school Afghani hash or something like that. But that's kind of what I can relate to what you're talking about. It was like kind of doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, so our culture's a very flower culture.
Yeah.
Over here, you know, it's a bit dominant flower. I mean, the younger generation in New Zealand now are into what they call chop, which is grinding it up and mixing it with tobacco and bonging it, which is
my first wife did that a lot. My first wife did that. What did she call it? well, guys here called that poppers, even though that also means something else. I can't remember what she called it, but yeah, no, that's what my first wife did. She loved doing that.
And I personally can't stand it. I'm old school, so it has to be even though I smoke cigarettes, I prefer my joint straight.
Yeah, no, and I'm the same way. I mean, unless I'm like feeling like European, right? I go back to the times when I was in Europe and all my homies over there was always spliffing. So it's like sometimes you get nostalgic and you want to roll a spliff, right? Rarely happens, but it happens once in a blue moon. It's like when I'm missing my times in Europe, you know what I mean? But so like here's a question. How old were you, Gazzers, the very first time you got stoned? Like, can you remember the first time you got stoned?
Probably 12.
Yeah, me too. High five. So, was it a love at first sight for you guys? Like the first time you met weed, where you're just like, I like this shit.
I guess the town I grew up in, it was a common thing. I mean, people come to. I grew up in a town that's a growing town. I mean,
it was
you know, yeah. So it'd be a bit more like what you'd call the Kootenays and stuff. You know, yeah. So if you're going to put a rep thing to it, and where I am now is where I'm living now is the same sort of town, but a different area, different town, but similar to the town I grew up in. So, I mean, my mates used to pinch their dads or brothers' weed, you know, and because there was lots of weed at school and stuff like that.
There was here in BC too. Like when I was in high school, you get it? You know what I'm saying? Well, we were certainly high at my high school. We were the highest of the high schools. I went to Lord Byng here in Vancouver, right? And it was like, dude, like maybe, especially like in the heyday, like, so I would have been maybe like grade 9, 10. By 11 or 12, I kind of phased out and like I did things outside of school, but I was still smoking the whole damn time. But like, I mean, you know, it just, I grew. But when I was a young person though, like I would sit there and yeah, I'll admit, I was definitely one of the slangers in my high school growing up. I mean, fuck, man. Dude, you get the munchies and your parents only give you so much lunch money. So what you do is you use that lunch money to acquire other things, right? And then you make more money from that. Then you can eat 3 pizza bagels a day. But like at my high school, bro, like 2 pounds of weed would change hands at lunch break. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're a bit different for where I was. But there's still a hell of a lot of weed. Being that we're not as open as Canada, I guess.
Yeah.
So we're still facing we're still in that Nixon sort of war on drugs thing. Still,
bro, that's going back in terms of a colloquial sociological political idea. Damn. Yeah.
So we're still in that mindset, which me and my brother Pro, who started this EC3 off, is that's what we're fighting for, is to break those mindsets, to re-educate and even offer job opportunities to the young people here that have got there's a better choice in life to what could be going down.
That because that's something, you know, you first started telling me about that before you were officially going to move there. It was kind of an idea, and you called me like, "Oh, this is a hypothetical thing I might do if my lawyers say I can do it." And it was to go work with them, and then you're like, well, one of the cool things that they do is at risk youth, maybe some who have these minor petty, you know, juvenile convictions of shit, right? Trying to live that gang banger style. Oh, I want to be part of the mongrel mob. Oh, I want to be this cool thing and do all this shit. That's gangster and hood, right? And then it's like, well, guys, that's a quick way to nowhere fast. And so you guys are doing.
It is, but you got to remember where these kids are coming from. So the town I grew up used to be a rich town. Then industry disappeared.
Good night, Gandhi.
So
keep going.
So now when industry disappears, you have the downfall of a town. So with that comes the gangs start to get a bit more rise, and they offer an opportunity to the young that they don't have, or a sense of brotherhood or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's to break that mindset. I mean, I'm not for legalizing all drugs, but I can see the sense in it when you take money away from these associations. Therefore, you take the limelight away, and what attracts young people to be part of them. You know, so these are the sort of things we want to break. once again trying to help the elderly change their mind on this is a medicine. It's not just this recreational plant that could be smoked. I mean,
totally. Well, see,
I mean,
the
it
thing
can
I
be.
find funny is, historically speaking, cannabis was always a medicine in the mindsets of people up until really the war on drugs starting, which really started kind of sort of the mid to later World War II, and it had to do with the actual rise of nylons and this new technology. That we've spent all this money to develop this new technology, but what we had before worked better though still, and it's
I mean, I don't know about your growing history, but mine is very similar to a lot of New Zealanders. We lived in the bush. We planted in the bush.
Yeah.
We stayed with the plants. I mean, some of us even got jobs with certain associations to guard and look after these gardens that are in the forest, with the opportunity of either you come out at the end of it with a Harley or half the crop.
Yeah.
You know. So these are the things that I was doing from probably 16 onwards.
Oh shit. Okay. Now, for example, that sounds pretty crazy to me as a guy who's always been exclusively an indoor guy, even if it's a guerrilla style indoor where we're like hiding in plain sight, or you're building this, or you're working at this type of a grow that's built underground. What was that like being out in the New Zealand bush, doing your things as it were? I mean, that sounds like a
It was
certainly
an
more
adventure.
stressful environment.
I call it an adventure, and every season was an adventure. You finding a new plot. Last year's plot might have got snapped by the cops, or so now you've got to find a new place to put it. Setting it up, making sure that you're taking bags of dog shit with you, so the spread around the area, so keep the deer and that away. You know, pissing in certain spots, just keep rodents away and things like that.
I know, like the old hippie growers I know here in Canada, right? Like, I mean, they're all like, all of the growers that weren't vegetarians, right? They would have to go around and like piss around the crops because, I mean, if you don't eat no meat, it ain't going to deter shit, right? But it's like animal coming along like, this motherfucker's going to eat my ass. Get the fuck out of Dodge. And they leave your plants alone. Like, I mean, that's, I was always an indoor guy, so I never really thought that way, right? I never have. But I mean, I'm aware of it though, because, you meet other growers, which were, I think, the old school growers in BC. Not to say that there's not outdoor people here still, but we're predominantly, and the BC bud that like took over the world and pressed the world, like that was all indoor too, right? Like we did that with indoor. Oh, well, he's gone now. Well, I'll continue my story. Maybe he'll come back. But we did all that kind of stuff indoors here, right? But this old school, sort of more hippie generation, I think, do you know what I mean? Definitely had these old school techniques. And that was where, for me, like the first time I got to meet the Gaz, and I was talking to him about the grows. And here he is. There we go. No worries. Welcome back. I was just telling them about how, like, the old school hippie sort of style here before kind of this sort of new age BC movement, which is kind of my world, came in. Like, they were very similar techniques, right? So I had these memories as a young person, right, about like hearing old people's, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but the older generation's way of growing. It was all this outdoor ideologies of shit, which I found interesting. It was a good learning experience. It was just very foreign to me. But I remember the first time we started chatting about growing and hearing, like, and I hadn't heard shit like that really in years because I had existed in my indoor world, And then Gaz is like talking about all this outdoor shit. And I was like, man, you sound like that old hippie dude that one time on Gabriola Island.
Well, I mean,
oh, 1 second here. I'm going to read some of the messages here just because I want to include people here. I'm just going to read them to you. So Jason A asked, whatever happened to Bubble Hash Maker video? I made it. I released it, and then I made it private again because I had a confusion on terms of where those products were sourced from. I can send you a link to that privately, maybe, or I'll send you a copy of it if you want to watch it, buddy. It was a good video. I got to re-edit it and re-release it. But so Jason Lee wants to ask if the old piss method really works. Did it actually work, Gaz?
Yes. Well, the smell of humans keeps deer and rodents away.
Well, especially if they're meat eaters, right? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, also hanging dead roadkill in the trees and around the area works as well. The smell
Oh,
of death.
all right. The smell of we protect our grows with the smell of death. No, and it makes sense. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just sort of being comical with it. But wow, that would definitely for sure.
Yeah, you know, there's all sorts of tricks you've got to do, because remember, you don't want to be carrying too much with you.
No, totally. No, I feel you.
You know, I mean, when I was doing this, we're carrying bread trays, big bread trays with probably 60, 70 plants on it, carrying them up hills to get to the bush line and trying to be ninjas and hide and drop things. And, you know,
I'm just picturing a teenage Gazzers like, you know, like,
you know, these are the things we did. I mean, I remember being at this place, and I was looking under the hedge, and this under this hedge was this beautiful soil, and I mean, it was beautiful. It was rich. It was dark. It was full of nutrients.
yeah.
So me and my buddy, we went back late at night, and we dug a trench right along this hedge line of all this beautiful soil out, to carry this into the to where we're carrying this into our places. No, I mean, I feel sorry for the people now. They wake up to this big long trench next to their
Motherfuckers just ganked our soil. And I can totally see you guys walking along all stone like they're taking our plants to the place. Hey, yo, bro, look at that dirt. That's some soil right there, motherfucker. And you're just like, all right, let's get it in the other backpack. You know, people wake up next morning. What the fuck kind of gophers came by yesterday? Holy shit. Do you guys have gophers in New Zealand? I don't know.
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we don't have. We have nothing that can kill you in New Zealand.
All right, good to know. See, Australia's got lots of shit that can kill you, but New Zealand's got nothing that can kill me. All right.
Unless you hop in the ocean and get hit by a shark, but you know that's everywhere in the world.
I think we're safe with Pot Squatch ain't gonna go do that. I think I'll stay on the land.
So yeah, it's been an interesting cannabis industry in New Zealand. I guess I've always had a fascination with the plant, and I've always been sort of, I don't know, the plant's either gifted me great results all my life. And I don't mean trying to be egotistical when I say that, but I guess I've always had a bit of a spiritual connection.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think that's part of why we got along when we first talked, was because we've always had sort of this, even though we're, you know, you grew up an outdoor grower, I grew up an indoor grower, but we did have similar ideologies and approaches to the plant. You know what I'm saying? Like, we did always get along that way. And there's nothing egotistical about that. Like, I know how to talk to my weed titties and get good weed titties. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, I grew up in a similar thing. I developed a reputation because, well, shit, that's just pretty good. You know?
So, you know, at an early stage, I got into breeding.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I must have been breeding since, and lost lots of things along the way, as you do. But I started around about 98 with, you would say, doing proper breeding.
Yeah,
doing it before then.
Selecting things, taking my time, selective plant fucking it, shall we say.
Yep. So back then, when I was doing it, and I started doing it properly, you know, I'd keep males at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'd keep my males at home and all my females obviously elsewhere. No, only dumbasses are going to come in your backyard and pinch males.
Yeah, and then you're just sitting there like, I did like that male, but you're a dumb fuck.
Yeah. And then taking my male pollen with me and then painting it onto my bottom parts of my plant, keeping the top sinsemilla and keeping the bottom seeded. So I got a best of both worlds over every plant I was growing at the time.
Well, see, and the thing I find fascinating though is like I've done that too with things inside though, right? Like, and so I'm doing it in a controlled environment, right? There's not all these extra variables that could go fuckery. And so the fact that you're doing the same thing outdoors and still pulling it off and keeping those top sinsemilla, like, that's gangster to me. That's wonderful. Like, that's really cool, man.
Well, you know, it's a lot of work. I mean, trial and error. trial era came along with it as well.
So here's a question I just came to me, and I find it an interesting one. So obviously, like, let's be fair, like, I grew up in BC. I'm a little bit younger than you, right? So I was always kind of aware of the medical applications of the plant when I started. And let's be fair, I fell in love with weed because I liked getting high. Like, that's where I started fucking around growing weed. I like to get high. I like smoking dope. And then I learned you could make money with it. And like, I liked that too. And I like the plant. But I was always kind of aware of the medical applications of the plant. Like, when do you remember thinking back in your history, you realized or learned about, holy shit, like, there's all this wonderful medical applications to this shit. And it really is. And that's kind of where you kind of hop on board with the concept of like the miracle plant. Like, think back, like, what would you can you try to remember that?
Probably medically, not until around about the 2000s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before then, it was all to me, it was recreational.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the same with every young person that comes along. It starts off being recreational, which, and the way I see it now, is recreational is medical in its own right. Totally. So yeah, around about the 2000s, when I started, sort of meeting talking to other people, hearing from other people within New Zealand that had used this to help with cancers and things along those lines. I mean,
well, that's what happened with my ball tumor, right? Like, I mean, I took that, like, and had I ever had cancer to try it out on? No, I'd only read about it or seen things about it, right? So when I found my tumor, I was like, all right, bud, give her hell. I mean, I drank a lot of scotch and whiskey too. So I sat there, I'd get stoned to shit, and I talked to the tumor, but it held it at bay. It didn't move on, right? Like, and I mean, it was just, and that was for me, like, when I fell in love with the plant, I was like, this shit really does fucking work for a lot of this kind of shit, And that's what really, like, I mean, you hear about things, right? But then you witness it, right? You witness it and you go, there's really something to this, right? So here's a big question for me. How does it feel to finally be in a place after all this time, after fighting the good fight against an archaic system that's persecuting the wrong people, right? To be able to be back in a place working with a wonderful company that is a charitable organization, getting to do what you love, sharing that with young people. And also, you're living in a place now where you don't have to wake up in the morning and go, you can just go, oh. How does that feel, Gav?
At the moment, I'm really relaxed. I mean, I'm in a good headspace at the moment. Everything's falling into place. I mean, this year between me and my friend Perot, and his lovely wife and her family and stuff, there's some big things that we're going to be doing. It's a big year for us in New Zealand itself, and what we're going to be pushing for, and what we're going to be trying to do. Basically, I'm going to be a part of a genetic side of this, where we're trying to find things that are going to be working for people within New Zealand.
Yeah,
finding those special things so we can offer them to the elderly as a balm, maybe.
You guys have a very different strain scene, I think, over there than, like, for example, if you were here in Vancouver. Like, what are the dominant strains in the medical or rec community? Like, what kind of shit do you see a lot in New Zealand? We talking SADs, indicas, hybrids, spicy things, old school things.
Well,
things.
You got to remember, a lot of New Zealand cannabis strains from the 60s and stuff that came into New Zealand was a majority, maybe from India, from people going to following the hippie trails. Yeah. A lot of Thai. We had a hell of a lot of Thai. I mean, my uncle himself was telling me about mates of his that used to row on a rowboat offshore to meet the ships to pick up Thai stick.
Yeah.
So from a certain time there, a lot of New Zealand genetics were very sativa, probably dominant strains. Mm-hmm. And then I'd say about the late 80s, early 90s, like a lot of places, when the influx of Afghani strains, bubblegum, or, all these old school Northern Lights, silver pearl,
Yeah.
things like that became into New Zealand and started being crossbred into New Zealand genetics.
Well, hell, just look at the one you sent me, which was the Kaitangata by a Canadian White Russian, which is a Canadian reworking within the white family. And I just love that, like, something that comes from you over here for me to check out. And it was totally like a piece of old school Canada that then went over and had sex with New Zealand. I mean, that's beautiful.
Well, this piece of New Zealand where I'm living in here right now in this area of Ruatorium, as I found out, a lot of the Australians actually came from Canada within this area, and I hate to say his name because I've now found he's not well liked in Canada, but Mark Emery actually. Mark Emery, which I think was part of BC Bud, I don't know. He was the person that imported a lot to this area. So
he's not well liked. He's kind of a scuzzy dude, but he did do a lot of prolific stuff back in the day, and we can't take that away, regardless of what the man chose to do.
So the people of this area have a lot of respect for him because they went through him directly.
Yeah.
I believe he even came here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the genetics in New Zealand did come from, you would say Canada.
Yeah.
And from probably the late 80s, like I said, onwards.
Yeah. Well, because that was really like, I mean, sort of the indoor cultivation explosion that happened in Canada also was paired with a breeding program, a conscientious breeding program where, because you got to remember back in our day, right? Like a lot of these grows had to function super covert. It was super illegal still, like still probably, especially in BC, at least like a little more accepted than maybe, New Zealand. Right. But, they were all underground. It was this super underground thing. So we had to keep things. That's where indicas and faster time periods became a thing that was an obsession here too, was because we were selectively breeding to create a shorter, fatter, higher yielding plant with a shorter finishing time that also fucking punched you in the head. Like, I mean, you should feel, and this is more of an indica reality, right? And that's where I love it. Like if you get a true BC indica based strain, you should smoke that and feel like you just got one punch by Butterbean or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but that's how that developed here, right? So like that's where I'm curious about how things may have evolved there, because you're basically taking a very selective reality that started showing up in the early to mid 80s and then really intensifying in the 90s. I believe Mark Emery's strain and a genetic brand that he did in partnership with many others, which was, well, I call it Crap King now. It used to be good. It's gone downhill. But would have been, I think, 94, 96 when they first released that kind of formalized thing. But what is it like having this influx of strains that meets this old school sativa reality? Like, because you got to watch a lot of that evolve over the years, really, I'm assuming. So
I don't know. A lot of it, I call it the bastardization of the New Zealand cannabis, because we had some really good strains before it happened.
That way.
And with this, I mean, probably not even very good breeding practices going on at the same time, which probably helped the bastardization.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some really good cannabis strains in New Zealand, which are probably only famous within New Zealand, which one was called Orange Ruffy, another one Coromandel Gold, Tapuki Thunder, and there's many more.
That's a good
name. And many more that along the way have been lost because of this influx of
those were all basically sat-like things, though, I'm assuming.
Yes,
right?
And with that, we've lost that because people followed high times and thought that this is how it was going to be.
Right.
So they followed the culture. So the culture sort of changed within New Zealand to following these magazines and thinking this is what we want, and then with that we lost what we once had.
Yeah. Now, as happens here, right? Like I have quite a few of these things that have come from like decades and decades ago from a trusted source where it's found, and they send me some of it because they know I'm going to protect them, right? So like, have you had much luck in New Zealand like randomly getting holds of old things sometimes from people, or has it been more of the easier accessible thing is genetically speaking to play with these new age bastardizations of a weird indica indoor world meets a non-properly intercrossed reality with these sat dominant strains of your country?
Well, me personally, I try to find the right phenos and then mix it with stuff that I've brought in myself and maybe try to make it better.
But you have been able to find some of these older things though to play with still, or not really?
Well, you can only go on what people say, and we really don't know.
Most of our history is oral as cannabis people.
Yes. So I think just like the skunk, once it's lost, and you may never get it back. You know, it's one of those things when you lose something, and it's time and time again. I mean, I'm pretty sure Canada's had this, America's had it. Is authorities raid places, they take things, and things that were valuable. Yeah. Now it's lost, and then you never find them again.
Yeah.
So I think law enforcement has destroyed a lot of what once was.
Yeah, they definitely played their part in that. Like, well, and that was the thing. Like, for example, that I was heartbroken about. I think the thing on your behalf, like, I was like, you know what? He could take on the legal bullshit. Even if he has to go to jail, my brother's fucking tough. He can handle that. What broke my heart is that you lost all the things that you cared about, you've been collecting, you've been working on, right? Like the beautiful amount of your stuff, your work, your passion, and then they just took it and either they kept it and they're going to capitalize on it, or they literally probably incinerated years of a career all at once. You know,
well, I think one of the most disappointing ones was that Gorilla Blue that I got from you that I crossed with Mr. Nice's Master Kush Skunk, which was going to be our Master Blue Glue.
Yeah,
I was really just because that to me was going to be a phenomenal strain.
Well, because the Gorilla Blue in and of herself is just such a weird monkey. And some of the phenos in there, like it's fairly uniform in a lot of ways, but they're in terms of structural appearance, in terms of how that strain comes out. But it does have some weird phenos in terms of the taste and smell that are just sometimes they almost come out wrong. You're almost like, it almost smells really bad, but I can't not smell this. Like it's just but
exactly. And with that,
Mr. Nice's seeds again, I still have Gorilla Blue. Do not worry, that is still in existence.
With Mr. Nice seeds, when you're getting from that particular seed bank, you're getting pedigrees.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
You're not getting so-called rush genetics from there. You're getting good pedigrees to breed with.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's I think one of the reasons that I prefer that seed bank over a lot of these so-called modern ones.
Well, that's where I think we should reach out to Mr. Nice Seed Bank and be like, you know what? We need to acquire
yeah.
Get a pack of those. I'll recreate that cross, and then once it's ready, I'll send it to you so you get to play with it again. It's not quite the same plant fucking, but it's the same genealogical base going into it. That'll at least. Yes. And also, I would like to publicly announce, first of all, there's a beautiful thing. Gazzer's new job for a legal compassionate society. I can legally send Gazzers at least what we have of his genetics back. We didn't have his whole kit, but he sent us some of the most beautiful things that he cared about, things that were important to the Gaz. So everybody, we cannot replace what they stole. The shit that was of value to his heart that he at least sent us, we will be not only sending that back, we're going to send a bunch of other fun things for you to play with your boys there at E3C, because fuck the police, son. And now we can legally send it to you because you're legally allowed to do what you're doing.
Right? That's right. And that's what's happening. We're going to create some new things for New Zealand. We're going to make this rock. We're going to empower the people of this country, we hope. And I know when I say we hope, I know we will. and it's about bringing the young people into this industry because we're going to get older.
Yeah.
And we need to bring the young in to carry these these skills onwards.
Well, dude, and I remember an email. This is going back now to Lab 2. So, and this was like right when the channel was really blowing up. I think it was before our store started getting fucked over by other things. And, before YouTube really started fucking with us too. It was like the heyday of us growing as a channel. And I got an email from this old grower, and he was like, and it was like just this random person. And it was like one of the early emails I received. And he was just like, I just want you to know that like I've been doing this my entire life. I both really respect your knowledge, but just know you are doing the work of teaching the next generation and influencing the next generation of growers. And I have to say, as someone who may or may not be almost dead, I'm very happy seeing someone like yourself doing it. And that was the first time I thought about it that way, right? Like I thought about teaching people this or that, but like thinking about when I was a young person, thinking about the shit I was able to learn from older generations, as which we referenced earlier in the show, and kind of passing on that torch, right? And sort of the greater evolutionary process of not just the plant's genomes through our practices, but we as growers, as I'm going to say plant interfacers, we're interfacing with the plant. You know what I mean? In terms of carrying on the traditions, evolving them, developing new techniques, right? Because even in my life alone, I've been doing this now. I have to do math. At least 23 years now. Fuck, I'm getting old. But it's like the evolution of techniques, understanding technologies, genetic development that I've seen even in my short period within the industry. And it's just like we're living in exciting times. But that's where we got to do the work to make sure like we're sharing the right shit out there to help the future generations to be truly doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's all about making stable genetics again. None of this rush breeding to have the next new thing on the market. You know, what's new, what's flash, what's this? I mean, people go and buy this new flash thing. They grow it. They go, oh yeah, that was all right, but it wasn't what I was looking for. Or where's that old school taste? Where's that old school bud look? You know, we're getting a lot more. We're getting a lot more foxtailing happening now in modern genetics.
Oh well, dude, when I was a kid or a newer grower for like at least the first almost 10 years of my reality, and by like kind of 4 years in is when I first started breeding a bit and kind of playing with these types of things, and then working in larger scale setups. And foxtailing was almost never seen. Like you almost never saw it. And not in the ways you see it now, but it's like now I feel like a lot of these modern genetics, you fart on the thing wrong and you've got a foxtailing reality. I mean, on some of these more modern genetics where there's a lot of stuff I like about them, I see a fragility there in these genetics where I'm seeing reactions to things like either temperature or wind burn or this or that just never was a thing before. Then all of a sudden these new issues are popping up now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I think a lot to do with feminization as well. I mean, before most people were playing with regular seed.
No, exactly.
And now you got the modern growers now that wouldn't know what a male looks like.
Well, that's why I made that video the other day of how to spot a male. Because like I was funny because like for me, right? Like I was like, I'm not breeding right now. I'm just trying to get a couple plants going for the channel. So I actually threw the male out actually at first. I threw it in the trash and I was like, oh fuck, I should probably make a video about that because it's not a commonly thought about thing. And so like for the beans that we're releasing, these aren't feminized beans. These are regular beans. We're trying to bring it back. That's why we've made them affordable. That's why we make them large packs. So even if, because a lot of our strains that we've done playing around with stuff has been about 50-50 really, right? So, and people should know how to do that because like if the world ends and you've only got your seed collection left, you should be able to bring shit back. And we'd have all these people. That's how I pictured it. All these people around the world that at least we can bring weed back. I mean, we may not be able to feed ourselves necessarily, but at least we can get high, and we can eat weed too. It just gets us extra high, but
so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm on a new exciting chapter right now. I'm on a high,
Tell us more
mentally, and
about that. Tell us more about the excitement. Tell us about the new chapter. Tell us about your upcoming plans of what you want to do in the cannabis space.
so with what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be helping my brother who's had a long fight. I mean,
Keep talking.
my friend came out of the shadows to do this. So and I support what he does. I support everything he's standing for. So with that, I want to give my expertise to him to help create things for Aotearoa,
Yeah.
things for our people. I mean, if it makes success overseas, genetic wise, that well, all very well, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about what goes on within our country itself.
Right.
I mean, we're so far, we're so far away from the rest of the world that we can't we shouldn't even be trying to compete with the rest of the world on things. And once again, we shouldn't be importing from overseas when we can do it here.
Totally. No, I don't disagree. I mean, because that's basically what the medical community is there now is Canada's cast-offs that can't be sold here, and you guys get that and get charged $1 billion for it. But I mean, like,
I mean, look at it. Our medical cannabis. So I got it out 30 grams, which we call an ounce, of this medical cannabis that came from Ontario. And that was, what was the brand name? LL Kush. So it's non-radiated, and the reason they got around the non-radiated thing is because we have to we turn it into a tea and drink it. Apparently.
Continue.
You know, so so it has to be ground up and turned into a tea. So I got this 30 grams. I ground the whole 30 grams up in a grinder. And to my disgust, there wasn't even a bit of dust at the bottom of the grinder.
Actually, I remember that day because he actually called me about this. And he's like, yo, would you not expect there to be at least something in the bottom? I was like, oh, well, fuck yeah, bud. And then he shows me this thing, and there's like maybe like one lone trike. There was like one trike that got through. Oh, and he's back. His internet's popping in and out. But yeah, there was like one lonely trike in the bottom of this tray. It was hilarious.
Yes. So, you know, so that and they're calling this medical. So and my theory is we're getting rubbish. This is not really helping people, and the only people really buying it are rich people that want to get stoned, that think this is a legal way of getting stoned.
Okay, so we've actually got an interesting thing here to Jason. So I'm going to read this to you. And so here's Jason's comment. I put it up. I don't know if you can see it, but it says, Jason said, I had a plant. He said planet, but I think he means plant. Thought it was totally a female, looked, smelled, and smoked legit, but it had probably 15 seeds in the QP. Was that due to stress or maybe too close to the lights? Only tip colas had the seeds. So one, if it's only the tip colas that had the seeds, you either had a last minute with like maybe 3 or 4 weeks left, a ninja danner. That doesn't make the plant a male, by the way. It means the plant, due to stress triggers, would have hermaphrodited on itself. And there's a lot of different types of male glands that the female cannabis plant can actually have come out. Danners are the most common. There's also pollen balls, pollen bombs. There are different types of glands that different genetics can actually, due to stress, produce, right? But simply put, what you're describing isn't a non-female plant, but it's a plant that would have gotten triggered by something. So the other question was it due to stress or maybe too close to the lights? Well, you got to remember, too close to lights is a form of stress. So all things that will trigger this are stress indicators: temperature, humidity, soil, feed, light. All of these variables can be utilized to trigger a stress response in the plant. And especially with modern day genetics, you fart on them, they nanner sometimes. I mean, it's
you got to remember, even old school genetics, the plant in itself will throw out some male pollen sacs just to make its species carry on.
Yeah, it's a built-in self-defense mechanism of the plant.
So I mean, at the end of the day, the plant can do it itself too without any stress. You know, it's just how the plant works. I mean, it's quite an amazing plant when you think about it.
Like, for example, think about it this way, okay? Let's say it can go either way in terms of born biogender as humans. Let's say you were a human, right? And you're out in the middle of nowhere. The world's ended. You're sure there's other motherfuckers around, but you haven't found them. Or maybe there's like one or two. You can literally change or grow parts of your genetic opposite gender on your own body as the opposite gender in order to both fuck yourself and fuck those around you to save the species. From a scientific, like, think about it like an end of the world apocalyptic sci-fi thing. Like, that is a good ability to have. That is crazy.
So it's been an interesting ride. I don't like the criminal system in New Zealand. I don't like how it works. I mean, I've brought up cases with my lawyer of people that have had their cases that are bigger than mine thrown out of court.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, well, how come they can get it thrown out of court? I can't. Where's the difference in this?
Would you say it has to do with different regions having different strictness or different sort of ideas? So there's kind of a patchwork quilt of the way laws are enforced throughout different parts of your country?
That's got part to do with it. And I also think if you're rich and you've got money, you're not gonna, like any country, you're gonna get off.
Yeah.
If you're not in that rich category, you're gonna pay the penalty.
Yeah.
And I think all countries live on that same sort of level of how things work.
Yeah.
Especially with the law. I mean, I'm sure you see cases like that in Canada.
No, totally. Same thing happens here too, right? Like, and I mean, it just sucks. But the one thing I will say is, like, I know it's still an ongoing fight for you, but like, it genuinely makes me so happy to know that you're moving in the right direction. You're in a safer place now. You're able to engage for the first time in a long time in terms of something that just really makes your soul tick, man. And I'm stoked to see that, Gaz. It makes me truly happy to see that, brother.
I'm just happy to be thing, and I owe a lot to my brother.
Yeah,
Pero, and his whānau that have helped him get as far as he's got so far, and have allowed me to come into this place, and help him build what he wants to build, because what we want to build is going to be epic for New Zealand, most definitely. We want to change the education around it. We don't want to see age limits on who can work in the cannabis industry. I mean, there should be maybe an age limit on who can partake in it, unless it's medical. But age limits on people that could come into the industry. I mean, if a 16-year-old is not interested in school and maybe he's got a talent in this industry, why shouldn't he be allowed to work in that industry?
Well, I mean, what's the referencing is kind of how a lot of the world worked before, going into an apprenticeship earlier on and doing like, and I mean, it worked for us for a very long time as a modern society. Where's the issue in that, right? I mean, I feel you. I mean, I think that may take a little bit longer to change, to fight that fight. But right now, I mean, at least getting the acceptance and some legal realities behind the people of New Zealand, where you can start to partake in the cannabis, respect the cannabis, cultivate the cannabis, and do all these types of things is really genuinely important. You know what I mean? Like,
the main thing for me is to for areas like where I'm living right now, that's always been persecuted for what they've always done, because this is what brought them money. I mean, the Christmas time to people in areas where I grew up, areas like this and other areas of New Zealand, Christmas time is harvest time. This is when the kids are getting new clothes. This is when they can get new books for school. The cupboards are full. Your bills are paid. There's petrol in the car. This is how people survive.
Yeah, mom and dad aren't cranking you because they're not stressed out about existence.
Exactly, and so, and when there is no industry in these areas, people have to fend for themselves and have to find other routes to make money to feed their families, to look after their families.
Yeah.
So me personally, I want to, within New Zealand, I want to see areas like this have first opportunities in this industry, as they should, because they are the legacy of our country.
I'm just going to pause you for 2 seconds. One, Jason, always happy to answer or answer question. If I've missed any questions of anyone at home that you want to ask Gazzers or I about growing or anything, you're always welcome to ask. Thank you for your donation, Jason. It is not required, but very much appreciated, and always happy to answer questions. And that touches on it. Like, I mean, you know, yeah, it's like what you were saying about this is just how communities survive. And I mean, I grew up in the city, right? But for me, I moved out very young, right? And not to say I didn't have a family that was backing me up or having my back a lot of times, right? But for as a young person and trying to live in this expensive world of Vancouver, like, and trying to be an artist, and at the same time, you know, working the dead end job where you don't get paid enough, but it's a job that the tax man can see. How I supplemented my income many moons has been also in some form or another related to the cannabis industry. You know, and that's the thing. This is an industry that, especially in more rural communities, it can be a true powerhouse to start empowering people, right? Like the basic mindset behind my company and anything we do now, and our basic mantra as a company is empowering people. It's what we do. All right. Like, we're not afraid about making a buck or two here, but like, and that's the right mindset, right? And I wish governments, I wish the New Zealand government, I wish the Canadian government, for fuck's sakes, we're still living in a Prohibition 2.0 here that keeps the little person out of the industry, right? Because of red tape, costs, and shit that's just invented by them. You know, I've often spoken on the channel. I'm like, if you produce cannabis in Canada, you should be able to take your crop into a place to have it certified. If it tests safe, good, you get a sticker on it. Go sell the bitch. Fuck off. It's a plant, right? Like, I mean, so, but I love what you guys are trying to do, and it's not so much bringing it in. I think it's almost because you spoke to it as you know, the community you grew up in, right? So what you're doing is you're fighting to bring back a traditional way of existence as a legitimized economy and something, you know, help people come out of the shadows, which is how I've always felt in my own country with things too. It's like, when am I not going to be considered a drug dealer or drug producer? When am I going to be considered someone who's actually just a business person or a farmer or a normal part of society? Like, come on. It's not like we're walking around shanking people, stealing, or doing real crime here. We're literally growing, cultivating, and bringing to market a plant. That's a thing, right? It's as simple as that. It's no more dangerous than you think it is. You know, oops, I cut myself with some pruning shears. There's the danger, right? I mean, yeah, there's the criminal element that was very much part of it because of a legalization for years that brought in the violence or the danger. But if society would just get with the fucking times and register, this isn't something to be scared
about. At the moment in New Zealand, I mean, indoors is indoor grows, there's outdoor grows. I mean, before the indoors was here, you had to plant so many plants out, so much you had to account for the police. You had to account for the people that steal, that rip your plots off.
Yeah, gangers.
So you know, so you've got all these variables. So you had to grow to account for all of that.
Yeah.
So what was considered a big grow may not have been that big because you could lose a lot of it to all the above.
Yeah, it's like, this motherfucker was trying to grow 500 pounds of weed. No, actually, I was trying to grow 100 pounds of weed because I assume I would lose 400 pounds of it to all the rest of you fucks between the government and the gankers. And well, hell, you know, maybe I didn't eat enough meat that week and the deer got in and they ate it too. That's why that whole flock we saw was a little extra special on Saturday.
So at one stage we had the police. They used to sling from the bottom of helicopters to spot the plant.
Is this the dye thing you told me about where they're dropping dye on you?
This is before the dye came in. They used to sling from the bottom and be a police officer or whatever on the bottom of a rope sort of thing from a helicopter trying to spot the plants. And then we had what they called the infrared, because a cannabis plant puts a certain temperature out.
Well, also so that's how they use sort of heat seeking shit on ours because of all of our indoor grow lights. They're like, wait a minute, it should not be that hot in this house or in this random part in the woods.
the plants can actually go off a certain heat signature. So we learned to adapt to that. So I found out that willow trees, you could cut a willow tree down, and next year, for where that willow tree was growing, new growths come off it, and that gives off the same heat signature as a cannabis plant. So once again, you adapt to the situations, and you plant amongst that.
Yeah. Work with the variables of the land and the system around you. But here's the thing. Imagine how creative and successful a person could be if they didn't have to waste that much energy trying to think around the system around them and could just focus on what they're meant to actually be doing.
Yes, and that would be really wonderful. But maybe half the fun of it is that too.
Well, maybe when we were young. I mean, for me now, I mean, I'm down being legal. I'm down with like not worrying about any of that shit anymore. Like it was fun then. I'll admit, I felt like James Bond or Batman or some Robin Hood asshole, you know. But like now, I'm just like, just fucking let me grow in peace. Like let me, son.
I think that's where a lot of people in Aotearoa are now too.
Yeah,
you know,
just fuck off.
You know, so then we have these helicopters with these. They come in and spray your cannabis, and the spray
Tell them about this, because I remember the first time a number of years ago when you told me about that, I was just flabbergasted by this. Tell them the story, guys.
So they come along with this blue dye that's and the chemical they use to spray your plant has been banned in most countries around the world, but yet the powers that be still they sprayed the cannabis in New Zealand with this deadly chemical and say, oh, it's the cannabis growers that are hurting the native forestry and the native bush and stuff like that.
And here comes the government with the plane.
Yep, with this deadly spray. So which now seeps into the which guarantee would have seeped into the bush, seeped into the land, which would have also ended up in our waterways.
Fuck yeah, bud.
I mean, we also, I mean, the authorities in New Zealand, they drop a chemical called 1080 in our bush to kill rodents off. Well, this 1080 is banned in most countries in the world too.
I'm actually pretty aware of that one, and I'm shocked that any modern country still uses it.
And we still use it here, believe it or not. Okay, so
but it's fucked.
Which seeps into the waterways, which seeps, you know, once again, it's this bullshit mindset that they're using on people. You know, it's crazy. I mean, this whole thing's crazy. I mean, that sprayed cannabis sometimes ended up on the black market.
Well, you were saying that some people even still go try to harvest these dyed crops and actually finish it and still sell it out, and then they you know,
I think that's another reason I want to see legalization in New Zealand, because it puts all those pricks out of business.
Yeah,
you know, it gives people a better quality of product.
I think the thing that's important for legalization to actually achieve this, though, is don't do it on the model that Canada did. Like, I'm not saying there won't be like, well, these are quoting Canadian beer companies, but like a Molson, right, or a Labatt's, right? Like these are big super conglomerate beer companies in Canada. We drink a lot of beer in Canada. I drink beer too, but you know, a lot of the beer world now is this craft reality, and the fact of the matter is the industry has always really truly thrived, and what people really wanted were these small batches done by people who truly knew what they were doing and wanted to do. But what the government here tried to do was they deemed that element, well, you're not going to be allowed to play. You voted this in, but you're not allowed to play. So they forced us all out. And I've even got friends who have managed to afford to get into the game on a small size, but it cost them anywhere from $3 to $10 million. And it's like, and I remember sitting there having a drink and a smoke with them going, like, when have we ever spent that kind of money on a setup? Because he goes, we have never done that. Imagine what could happen in the actual industry of having a free, safe industry for the consumer, for the country too, because the fuckers make tax off this shit. Why choke a chicken to death if it's going to make you money, right?
Well, that's another thing we have to look at within New Zealand too, is if they overtax it, if the government overtaxes it, they create the black market still.
Again, I will reference legal states in America or Canada.
And that's what we've been looking at.
Right.
You know, on those things is how can we do it better?
Yeah.
But how can we approach the government to attack these issues?
I mean,
at the moment, we've got a government at the moment that's all about money. Our new government.
They're all like that, sadly.
This particular party is all about that. They said that they're not interested in changing the cannabis laws right now or at all. But we're thinking that is there about money? How do we attack you to make you change your mind?
Yeah. I mean, the only way that I could perceive it working is if you can get yourself into an angled position where you're actually consulting on things. Like I remember when legalization was happening, there were these jobs available, and I couldn't get one sadly, but that was they wanted to start a commission of different people from different parts of the industry in Canada about what should cannabis legalization look like? How do we set this system up properly? The government chose to, again, listen to the rich fucks and none of us who could actually, like, they would have made so much money by now if they had just listened to us. That's the funny thing. The government would have made so much money if they had listened to the people of the industry. Because and the funny thing is we were happy to talk to them about it. It's not like we were like, fuck the government. We were like, no, let's work together. Let's be friends. And then look what happened. But I mean, if a government, you got to approach them, I think, if you can get your voice heard and get into an avenue where they're listening, show them the benefits of doing it your way. You got to assume they're all dumb, right? Oh, we're adding a new one. And now we've got a frozen Gazzers. And then now there's the real one. All right. But
I have to keep coming in and out because it keeps cutting out on me. So,
oh, no worries, bro. That one was funny because there's actually still a Gazzers here. Look. Oh, the picture's gone. But anyway, if you can build a diorama, shall we say, take them on a journey, let them take a look at the big picture and the way you all see it. So you're like, if you all work really hard and build this whole premise, it's like a pitch. Imagine it like a business pitch or a film pitch where you're going in to talk to a director and basically change half the movie. I recently did that. You know, and you got to build this diorama of why this is better for the whole situation and why it'll be awesome as fuck. And it's not a scary thing. It's not changing anything. It's just updating it or adding to it and doing it the right way and making smart decisions, and then show them where the money is too, right? So you create this inclusive system. You actually eliminate the black market. You know, boom, there goes tax dollars on police, your law system, all of that, penal system. You know, you create a taxation that makes sense, a low accessibility, which then creates competition. Market will manipulate in terms of having good product by due to its own, really, right? Like there's all these things, and it saves the money because a big part of this industry actually can, what I in my mind would call self-regulation. It can self-regulate. It's self-regulated. Oh, he's gone again, but it's self-regulated the whole damn time before concepts of legalization and large money and corporate bullshit comes in. But anyway, 1 second here. I'm going to read some messages here. I'm assuming Gazzers may or may not pop back in. Bear with me here. Where did we start? Oh, and Gazzers is back. There we go. Welcome back, Gazzers.
Oh, yeah, the mic and that keeps playing up. So I haven't got much longer I can go because my phone's because I'm on solar and everything.
Yeah,
solar and everything. So we'll might have to wrap it up for a little bit there, here, brothers and sisters.
You do this. I'm going to give you solo stage right now. First time you've ever talked to the community. Goodbye message to everybody.
Hey, thank you for having me on your show, guys, and hopefully we can do this again. And much love and everybody to this community. It's a great community, and let's keep building it. Peace.
Gazzers, thank you for coming on the show, brother. It's been such a joy actually having you here. I, honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, these and days, have been asking this man for a very long time to come on the show, but he wasn't in a position where he really could. And he's finally feeling brave enough to really stand up and publicly be like, I am the Gazzers. It's kind of like coming out and being like, I am Iron Man. And I'm proud of you. I remember that feeling the first time, like I started the channel, but I didn't release my face for a long time. And then I remember when I finally was like, I'm going to get in front of the camera directly. And it was funny. A lot of people were like, wait, you're white? I was like, sorry to let you down, everybody. I was like, you did see my hands occasionally and shit, though. So, like, but it was quite funny to me. So, Gazzers, I just want to say personally, albeit publicly, I know that it's been a long journey to get you on the show. I know it's something that Gazzers isn't a big fan of talking in public. The Gazzers learned the internet at first to be able to talk to me. Like, he literally asked his daughters and his wife to teach him how to use the internet to be able to talk to me. And that's how he and I first became friends. Look at him fucking now, right? Living off grid with solar, and he's tuning into a show with his phone, and he's knowing how to do shit. But like, that's how our friendship started, was he literally began to learn the internet to be friends. And you did a great job, buddy. You killed it today. And I'm really proud of you. And just know, hats off to you guys, and hats off to your wife, Mel. Hats off to the whole family. Hats off to EC3 and all the boys out in Tuguru. I don't know. I don't think I said that right, so don't judge me. And I was trying to remember how to say it, but we are a global community. We are the Pot Squatch Growers Army. We are all cannabis lovers. There's people of all walks of life, all colors, social graces, and superstitions. Yes, I'm referencing religion. I'm sorry if I offended you, but I'm the son of two priests and grew up in the church. I feel qualified that I could at least have that be my personal humble 2 cents for it. Doesn't mean I don't respect your choices. Doesn't matter who you are. There's all kinds of us, all sorts. And that is what built this community, not just the Pot Squatch Growers Army, but the entire cannabis community. That was its origin story. It was this outlaw reality, us against them, us standing up for our rights. And to be fair, not only are there many parts of the world that are truly still fighting for that, even in the places where we have supposed legalization, we're still fighting for a lot of freedoms and acceptances into that. Let's not lose where we came from. Let's get rid of egos and too much competition. Let's get rid of bullying and being dick fucks to each other, ganking each other, ripping each other off in this industry. Let's get back to standing together, because that's how it started. That is the true foundational element that is a really positive thing to all of this. So, to the people of New Zealand, Pot Squatch Growers Army, the world around stands with you. To the people of any country who are part of this army, I stand with you, and we all stand with you as well. Together, we can bring the normalcy of reality, at least the way we see it, to our day-to-day lives, which is, it's a fucking plant. Let us goddamn grow. And at the end of the day, together we stand, divided we fall. Together we stand, divided we fall. And we need to remember that. And we're doing good work. And as we kind of touched on in the show too, those of us who know a little bit more, making an inclusive space, a safe space for younger people to come in, ask questions and learn, right? Like, think about a young kid who might be on an internet forum that maybe you're part of and ask a question. A lot of people are going to rip that kid apart. Like, how dumb are you for asking that question? There's no such thing as a stupid question. It's not their fault they don't know it yet. Don't be a dick fuck cunt and maybe just answer the question and be nice and say, have fun, Stop being a dick fuck. That is what I believe in this community. That is what this community truly was and truly will always be. Yes, I was absentee off and on over the last year and a half, 2 years. Those of you who have watched the channel for a long time fully understand and know why. Big part of that was me almost being dead. But guess what? I'm not dead, motherfuckers, and my health is good. And the army's good. Gazzer's moving on. A bunch of us who went through hardships are moving on. We're bringing it back, though, okay? It's 2024. Year of the Dragon, baby. Technically, that doesn't start until, in February, but it's the Year of the Dragon. And my friends, let's get dangerous. Let's get dangerous in like a really safe way, though, like as in just standing up for our people's rights, standing together and unifying. That's the dangerous idea. That's the idea they're scared of. If we actually get along, if we can learn to get along and stand together, that's when the ants stand up and the grasshoppers get fucking fucked off, Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. But my friends, my family, it's been a wonderful show. Big thank you to Gazzers and EC3 and everyone for allowing him to be safe and move on to a new chapter where my brother can actually do what he loves and do it legally and stand up for the rights of the cannabis people of New Zealand. Thank you to all of you at home for tuning into the show and hanging out with all of us and having a good time. My friends, my family, I will also say next week we have another wonderful special guest. I'm trying to remember how to properly pronounce his name. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it wrong, so I'm not going to say his name right now because I don't want to insult next week's guests. But he's a brilliant doctor, understands the actual intimacy of all the cannabinoids. He's been part of, in actuality, consulting the government, consulting lots of companies. He's a very intelligent man. If you have intimate questions about biochemistry, cannabinoids, their interaction, all these things, God damn it, this man can sit there and answer them for you. Not to mention, he's also quite funny, and I enjoy his channel. He's got a lot of very good production value behind very hard, wonderful facts and realities of science. So he will be on the show next week. I will make an announcement video the next couple of days, and I'll have to message him. I'll be like, man, can you send me an audio clip of how to actually properly pronounce your name? Because I don't want to be a dick. I'll do that. But anyway, my friends, my family, like, subscribe if you want to. Tell your friends and share if you want to. It does help us fight the monster that is YouTube and stand up for our people's rights here digitally. You can check out our store too if you want. You don't have to. You don't have to ever pay for this content. But if you want to help, well, those are ways you can help. All right. Remember, the true grower is the forever student. The true grower is not afraid to take risks. The true grower makes educated, stupid decisions. Love yourselves. Love your plants. Stand together, for divided we fall. I'll see you next time, you sexy motherfuckers. All right, all right, all right. Word to your mother. Oh, yeah.